Right, good evening. So as I told you earlier, today we have to start the grade 11's units. Yes, we didn't finish grade 10 units, right? Still incomplete, but definitely I will take or I will conduct some other classes, additional classes to finish things off, because that spreadsheet of is very important for your final exam. That has been started but not completed. So definitely I have to take some time to explain spreadsheet, right? Maybe an additional class is taken. Maybe that is common for both groups, right? So keep in touch with that groups, right? Then only you can get those updated details. Okay. So now we have to start grade 11. So before we start grade 11, we must know some of the backgrounds of grade 11. You know, in grade 10, you have 9 units, right? We have 9 units. Those 9 units are divided into 3 units per term, right? First term has 3, and then second has 3, and also last term has 3, right? But in grade 11, you have only 6 units, right? Only 6 units. But don't underestimate them, because even though you have 6 units, right, they have enough weight, right? So I can simply say that the grade, even though the grade 11 has 6 units, that content, those subject contents should be equal to grade 10 subject content, right? There is nothing different. Even in grade 10 also, we took an year to study, right? 1 year needed. Here also 1 year needed. So there is no much differences. But the only difference is we have less number of units, right? We have only 6 units, right? And also, before I start naming the units, I must tell you one more thing. I must focus on examination view. You know, in final examination of examination paper, we have 7 questions in the second part, 40 questions in the MCQ, and also 7 questions in the second part. The first question in the second part is compulsory. Questions are taken from different units, maybe both grade 10 and 11. So ignore that question, right? I don't want to drag that question right now. So except the first question, you have 6 more questions, right? Among those 6 questions, 2 questions are taken from grade 10, right? Only 2 questions from grade 10. One is a spreadsheet, the other one is database. So that's why we gave importance for both units, right? So 2 gone. So the remaining 4 units, because you have 6 units, right? The remaining 4 units should be taken from grade 11 syllabus. So you have only 6 units in grade 11, but out of these 6, 4 should be given importance. So try understanding the importance of studying grade 11 syllabuses, right? Because majority of the questions asked in second part come from grade 11, not from grade 10, right? Maybe there may be some questions asked in MCQ from grade 10, right? But in second part, you know, grade 11 dominates. Okay, right. So this is how the examination paper structure looks like, right? So now, before I step into the units, let me take the units first. Let me introduce them. At least you should know the importance of those units, right? So take some time to understand that one. After finishing that, we can go and take the first unit. Okay. So in grade 11, you have 6 units. This is your first unit called problem solving. Problem solving. But your book has a different name. You know, names are not matters, titles are not matters, the subject content are matters, right? Contents are matters. So you don't need to worry about that. But I give some meaningful names for title, because I feel that the title which I have given here, like problem solving, may be appropriate than the one given in your book, right? So it doesn't matter. Second, information system. Information system. This also has a different name in your book, but I have chosen this one, but this may be the most commonly used name, right? If you want to study this area in advanced level or university, definitely this is the name given, information system, right? Before we go to the next unit, let me tell you something. You know, in problem solving, or in this particular unit, first unit, there is a complete question asked in your final paper, second part, right? Which means 10-mark question. You have a 10-mark question, complete question taken from unit number 1. In addition to that, for second part, there may be significant, significant number of questions asked in MCQ. Maybe 4 questions or sometimes 5 questions asked in MCQ. So around 15 marks, right? You can gain 15 marks, at least 15 marks in grade 11 first unit. If you are fluent, then it is very easy to obtain these 15 marks. Even in information system, you have a complete question in the second part. Sometimes, very rarely, they avoid asking a whole question, but mostly they ask a complete question, 10-mark question, sometimes 6 marks, 5 marks, but mostly, right? I think recently they keep asking 10-mark questions, okay? And also in MCQ, maybe 2 or 3. So around 12, 13 marks, easy, right? But the second question, sorry, first unit is slightly big, right? It is lengthy, so we need to spend much time. But for second unit, we don't need to spend much time, right? It can be finished within classes, right? So that is second. Then third one, as a third unit, we will have to study internet and email. Internet and email. Right, this is small and also too easy because you know internet is something which is used in every day, right? In our day-to-day life we use it, so anyone can understand the concept. Yes, there may be some new terms and new things, but it is not hard to understand. And also in examination point of view, it has less importance, right? It is because of the subject content. It doesn't have much content, so that may be the reason why it doesn't get much influences in examination. Maybe around 5 marks you can gain, sometime more than 5, but generally 5. Okay, so this is internet and email. Then unit number 4. So here as a unit number 4, you have usage of multimedia. This also has less importance in examination, usage of multimedia. Here we will have to study about different medias, multimedias. So we have to study about images, you know, image is one of the medias. We have to study about sound, maybe video, right? Their characteristics, animations. So this is all about studying multimedia, different media, right? So since it is a practical oriented unit, it is completely based on practical. So since it is practical oriented, you know, questions are very tough to ask because our paper is a written paper. So when it comes to practical, it is very tough to include, right? So that may be the reason why it has less questions. Okay. So in unit number 3 and unit number 4, you don't need to have, or you don't have any big questions. So complete second part questions. Then unit number 5, website designing. So here we will be able to design web pages or websites. This is another important units in exams in grade 11. This will be included in your second part, right? There is a complete question asked and at least 4 or 5 marks questions in MCQ, right? Both the problem solving and website designing will have more influences, right? So this is one, website designing. Finally, there is another unit called ICT and Society. ICT and Society. This is this is one of the units which is similar to grade 10 first unit. You know, grade 10 first unit also has things related to ICT and society. There we discuss about how ICT contributed to the society. We took the sectors and discussed. Here also same thing, but here the majority of the things are related to demerits, disadvantages of ICT. So when ICT is developed, advantages are given to the public, as well as they face disadvantages. So here most of them will be disadvantages. So we have to spend much time in discussing disadvantages, because when it comes to advantages, you know, grade 10 first unit is allocated there, right? So in the last unit also, most probably you have a complete question, right? I use such thing. I predict such things based on the past, right? Mostly in the past. Recently they asked a complete question. Even in the at the time when ICT was introduced, also they had many complete questions. But maybe after some time there might not be complete questions. But now we have complete questions. So these are the 6 units included in grade 11. Out of these 6, problem solving, information systems, web designing, and ICT and society. These 4 must be given importance, because these 4 will be considered for selecting second part questions, right? So as I mentioned earlier, you have 7 questions in the second part. Forget about the first one, because that is a common question or complete question. So except the first one, you have 6 more questions, right? So in these 6 questions, 2 come from grade 10. The remaining 4 should come from grade 11. These are the remaining 4 areas, right? Problem solving, information system, web designing, ICT and society. So if you are able to, understand such things, these 4 areas, then answering or getting marks, getting A's is not hard, right? Okay, right. So with this introduction or overview, we can step into the units and straight away start. Right, look. Okay, one more thing. Look here. According to our content, that table of content, the first unit is problem solving. But I'm not going to study, or I'm not going to start with problem solving now. I want to start with second unit, information system. To start with information system, there is a reason for starting with information system. That reason may not be important for you, but if you want, I can tell you. Maybe at the time when ICT was introduced in 2007, the government had a plan to conduct a small computer-based program. Every student has to perform or do a small program as their final program in grade 11. The marks for that particular program, small program, will be added to your final marks. This is the intention, government's intention at the time, right, around 2006 or 7. But government had to give up that particular idea, because we didn't have enough computers at the time. We did not have enough teachers at the time, right? And also there were not many books, textbooks, so many issues. That may be the reason why government gave up that plan. But at that particular time, we had to change the order, because to do a small program in computer, small software in a computer, both problem solving and information system knowledge important. You need to be good with problem solving as well as information system. But that information system unit can give you some of the concepts needed for developing the program or developing the software. You need to know some of the ideas or concept. So that may be the reason why we have to change the order, because before start developing the program or software, you need to understand some of the concepts, some of the techniques. So since information system is related to that technique, we changed the order. We started with information system. After finishing the information system, we went to problem solving and took it, right? So that may be the reason why the units are changed, right? And also sometimes we feel that the first unit is very big and the second unit is small, right? If you want to study problem solving clearly from the beginning, definitely you need at least 2 or 3 months, around 2.5 months needed. So, you know, spending 2.5 for studying in a school, you know, it's big number, it's right. You can't do that. So that may be the reason why we changed the order, right? We changed the order and started to study information system in the first term, and also some part of the problem solving can be finished in the first term, right? So in the first term, we can't finish 2 units completely. Information system can be finished, and also some part or maybe half of the problem solving can be completed. But if I start with problem solving, definitely I have to be with the problem solving during the first term. So we have some reasons for changing the order, but you don't need to worry about them, because at the end of the day, you know, we have to learn everything, right? We need to learn all the units in our syllabuses. Okay, it's not a matter. So let's start the unit information system. Right. So as I mentioned earlier, it may take 10 or 11 classes to finish that, around 10, maybe 9, sometimes 10 or 11, right? So let's understand okay, even though the name is information system, we are not going to take that information system now, right? I'm not going to explain the term information system now. So let me start the proceedings with the term system, right? So let's take the word system and understand the fact, right? After that, we can go back and take the phrase information system. Maybe for the next 2 or 3 classes, maybe up to maybe next 2 classes, we are not going to touch that information system. We will work with system, and we are able to understand everything. Once it is over, then we can go and take the term information system, right? So the term system is not the new term, right? We already learned that term in grade 10, right? You all learned, right? Because in grade 10 first unit, or the grade 10 first unit has this one, system. We briefly discussed that term in grade 10, right? Of course, we have taken examples too, right? We identified some examples and discussed. So can anyone define the term system? What is system? Anybody? Hope you remember, right? Define the word system. Give me an idea, right? You don't need to elaborate much, right?
It's a type of thing that takes data as inputs and process it and takes out the information as the output. So washing machine or
Okay. Yes, it takes data, maybe inputs, and produces output. But when it comes to definition, we need to focus on some words or some aspects, right? Okay, look. Any other answers?
Components work together to perform a specific task.
Yes, components system is a collection of components which work together to perform tasks, right? So yes, as I always say, don't try to memorize things, right? So understand the stuff. Even in the word system, right? If it is system, you need to remember three important points, right? When it comes to the definition for system, make sure you have three phrases or three important things in it. If you compose these three things, the definition can easily be made, right? Look here. So if it is a system, so if you point some object as a system, definitely it has the ability to perform tasks. Have you understood? So if I point an object as a system, I should check whether it has the ability to perform tasks. That is one important thing a system has, right? So performing task. Performing task. That is one. Right. To perform a task, that particular system must have parts or components. Again, I tell you, if I name an object as a system, I must check whether it has the ability to perform task. At the same time, I have to check whether it has parts, whether it has components. So that is the second one, right? It must have components or parts. At the same time, these components must work together, right? They cannot work alone, right? They depend, one depends on the other. So definitely these components, these parts must work together. So this is the third idea. Components work together. So remember these three things related to system. So suppose if you ask to define the word system, try composing or try giving you a definition by composing these three. Now let me define that a system is a collection of components, or system is a combination of components which work together to perform task. I repeat it. A system is a combination of components, or you can say set of components, collection of components, which work together to perform task. This is system. So if it is system, definitely these three must be there. We can take so many examples for system, and if I take one system, definitely I must check, I must identify these three things in that particular system. Okay, so remember this definition. System is a combination of components which work together to perform tasks, right? Okay, right. So this is a simple definition, right? So we have defined the term system. So let's take an example for system and identify some more things. So let's take a simple example for system. Human body, right? I take human body as a system. Listen to me. Right. So human body is a system because it matches to my definition, which means it has those three important things. It can perform tasks, it has components, and also those components work together. So now I can say that it is a system. See, if it is a human body, it can perform tasks. So even now, I'm performing tasks. Right? I'm teaching, speaking, explaining. These are tasks. Even you are listening, or you are watching. This is task. Both of us performing task, right? Okay. To perform such tasks, components in our body working together. So, you know, parts of the body, right? We have parts in our body, they work together. You can't say they are discharged from one to another. So they are working, they are engaging in a group work, right? So parts of the body, maybe both internal, maybe external parts, they are engaging. So definitely human body is a system, right? So let's take one more example so human body, if it is human body, you know, components, those, the parts, right? The heart or liver, right? The lungs, right? Maybe external parts, these are the parts or components, right? Okay. So let's take another example. Right. Take a look at this. School. Is school system? Is it a system? Try responding quickly, then only we can finish the things. Is school
Yes, sir.
system?
It's a system. Yes, sir.
How? How can you justify?
School combines teachers, students, and other non-academic staff. So that's a combination of those people, and it works. It performs tasks like managing schools, students, their studies.
Yes, good. So here in a school, we have components as you listed. You have principal, teachers, students, right? Resources, funds, all these things are components. These components must work together, right? They all engage, right? They cannot work alone, right? The principal must depend on the teachers depends on principal or students. So they work as a unit. So when they work as a unit, you know, task is performed or the goal is achieved, right? So teaching and learning, maybe producing good citizens, they are the goals, right? So that is achieved, right? That is performed. So definitely school is a system, right? These are the components. Okay, so remember this point. If it is a system, definitely it has components. All these components should work together. I don't want to take some other examples right now because I need to introduce one more thing. After introducing that one, we can take one or two other examples, right? So look here. So assume that it is a system, right? This is a system. Take this as a system. It may be anything, or human body, or school, or whatever, right? So within a system, you have components. So we discussed that. So assume these are components. I put uh, blocks. These are components. This system has many components. Let me draw some of them. Right? Look here. Look carefully. So this entire figure is a system that has components. So now some components may have similarities, similar characteristics, and they work together as small units. Assume these four components have similar characteristics, and now they engage in some activities. So they work as a group, right? They work as a small group. They are performing something. Wait until I finish, right? So now here, there are some other components. I find four components here. They also have similar characteristics. Now they also engage in works like this, another small group. Okay, here I have five components. Assume they also have similar things. Now they work as a unit, small group. Okay, so this is a small group. This is another small group. Here you have another group. every small group, right? Every small group depends on the other. So this may depend on this one, this may depend here, this can depend here, anything. So I put some arrows in order to show the dependency. So now it means this group can give something to the other. So which means this one depends on here. It can be vice versa, right? So now put it, which means this small group gives something to the other group. It is possible here, right? Look here. So it can give something here. It also gives back to this. Here also it is possible. It can give something here. It is possible. So now what happens? Try understanding. So the whole thing is a system. Every small block is a component. But when some components are working together as a small group, that small group can be called, right? That small group can be called subsystem. What is it? Subsystem. So, you know, a subsystem is formed by combining some components which have similar characteristics. Here, there are some components together, right? Definitely, that is also another subsystem, right? I can say that it is a subsystem. Look here, again some components together, so this is another subsystem, right? So now it's very simple. See, here we have three words: components, subsystems, system. So now look here, how a subsystem is formed by combining components. So combination of components is a subsystem. That is the first connection. Then how the system is formed? Combination of subsystems. When subsystems are combined, we can say that the system is produced. So this is the idea. So components are the building blocks, right? So when some components are working together, they form subsystems. When many subsystems are engaged or connected, they create the system. It would be easy if I take one example. Take a look at the human body, right? So, you know, human body is there. In a human body, we have so many parts, which means components. I already discussed, right? We have so many, both internally and externally. We have components. So when some of the components are working together, we can find some subsystems in our body. You know, subsystem is nothing. It's a system. What did I define the word, or how did I define the word system? Collection of components working together. Collection of components working together is a system. Look at one subsystem. Look closely. What happens within that particular subsystem? Components are working together. So since components are working together, definitely it's a system. But we used to describe that as subsystem because it is a system within a big system. You have a big system. Within that system, you have a small system. That's why it gets that special name, subsystem. Right. Now I come back to the human body. So in a human body, you have components. When some components are working together as a small group, we can name some subsystems. Tell me some of the subsystems in a human body.
Digestive system.
Yes, right, you got the star, right? So we have digestive system. So if it is digestive system, you know, that is not a part, that is not a component. That's why it gets the name system. See, we use the word system, digestive system. So which means that has components together. Digestive system is not a single component. It is a group, right? Even nervous system, you have nervous, that also has components which are related. And also you have a muscular system, you have skeleton, right? So you have blood circulation. All these things are subsystems. And also note, all these subsystems have components inside. So now I am doing work, I am performing tasks. It is because of all these subsystems, not only digestive or not only blood circulation or not only skeleton. So if I am able to, performing tasks, definitely I know all these subsystems working together. They contribute up to some extent. Every subsystem in my body contributes, right? Then only I can speak or I can perform tasks, right? Try understanding such thing. These are subsystems. Even in our human body, we have subsystems, right? Okay. So I hope that you have the ability to identify the components and subsystems at this moment, right? So three things: components are building blocks. Then in the next stage, you have subsystems. Finally, you have system, right? Components, combination of components, subsystem. Combination of subsystem is a system, right? Look, let's take the school again, right? We have discussed about school earlier, so let's take that again. So in a school, we have components we have already identified, right? So principal is a component, teachers also components, students, resources, right? Funds, there may be many, right? So a school has components. Like a human body, it must have subsystems, because when it comes to system, definitely components are there. These components must work together as small groups in order to perform or in order to create subsystems. Can you identify some subsystems available in a school? Can you give some of the names?
Teacher union.
Development committee.
Development committee,
Teacher union.
teacher union, don't
Resource
think big,
management.
right? Huh?
Resource management.
Resource management. See, don't think big, because look at that previous example, human body. So in a human body, you have components, right? Lungs, liver, right? A hand, or right things. So if it is subsystem, these components must work together. They must engage in small works. Similarly, in a school, you have components. I have written them on the board, right? We have principal, teachers, students, resources, funds, non-academic staff, there may be many. So when these components, not all these components, when some components working together as small groups, definitely we can find some subsystems. You take some of the, or you have named some of the things which may have complex, or which beyond your thinking, right? So try focusing your day-to-day schooling, day-to-day activities.
Classroom.
Yes, okay, classroom. So classroom activity, one of the subsystems. Why? Take a look at your classroom. In a classroom, you have teachers, you have students, you have resources. So they all work together. They all engage in activities, right? Teaching and learning activity. That is system. That is subsystem. So it would be better to name that as classroom activity or something, because if it is classroom only, sometimes it doesn't, or it refers only the physical buildings and other things. So better to describe like classroom activities or something, or classroom teaching and learning or something. Okay, you got the start. Give me one more. Think in this view. Classroom activities.
Library.
Okay, library activity is also possible because they are also components work together. Librarian, teachers, students, books. So they work or they may engage in some works. Else, what else?
Labs.
Yes, you have laboratories, right? Labs. There may be different labs, right? Science lab, ICT lab, home economics lab, technological lab. So you have different labs. So in all these labs, these components engage in activities, right? Students, teachers, right? Lab assistants, equipments, they engage. So that is a subsystem. Even your sporting activities, right? Games, or maybe coaches there, teacher in charges there, students, right? Your sporting equipments, you all work together. That is another subsystem. Even your unions or clubs activities, right? They are also components working together, students, teachers. So everything is a subsystem. So when all these subsystems work properly, school can achieve its task, or school can achieve its goal. We already discussed that every system has its goal or task. Sometimes we can say task, sometimes we can say goal. So school has a goal, which is building or making good citizens to the society or something. That is the goal of a school. So in order to achieve that goal, school has subsystems. So every subsystem contributes to that particular goal. Even if you take a classroom activity, that may be the most important one. There's children learn the things, and that may be important for your future. Even on a ground, you learn something, right? You know your values, you learn values, ethics, and you build your characters. So that is of course important. Even libraries or labs, so everything is a subsystem. Even you can say your school administration, that is another subsystem. You cannot forget that. A school has administration, right? The principal, deputy principal, some other officers, they work together, right? They are engaging in planning your studies and other things. So they are also subsystems, right? So remember, these subsystems can work together. Every subsystem in your school depends on the other. You can't say that classroom alone works, right? Or lab alone works. Everyone depends on the other. That's why I have drawn those lines earlier, right? From one subsystem to another subsystem, you have lines in that particular diagram. Clear? So yes, you got it right. These are the subsystems in a school. Right. Let's take one more example to identify the components as well as subsystems. So this is another familiar one. Let's take the hospital. Hospital. So tell me the components of a hospital.
Doctors, nurses, patients.
Yes, doctors, nurses, patients, medicines, medical equipments, all these things are components, right? All of them are important. Doctors, nurses, patients, right? Medicines, medical equipments. Right, so all these are components. I have written some of them, right? A hospital may have so many components, but I have written some of them. Right, so these are the components. These components must work together, right? Every component must work together. We know that, we can understand that. But these components may engage in small group activities. So these doctors or nurses, so they can work together as small units. So we can call them as subsystems. So tell me some of the subsystems.
Consultancy activities. Consultancy activities.
Operation theater.
Screening
Operation
activities.
theater. Okay, operation theater. What else?
Screening activities.
Okay.
Consultancy activities.
Is it screening activities? What did you mention? Screening activity? I didn't hear that clearly. What is it?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay, right. What else?
Lab activities, laboratories.
Hmm? Right. So in a school, sorry, in a hospital, it's too easy to pick the subsystem because, you know, hospital is an organization where things are divided into, I mean, departments or something. So even they have the name, so we can easily identify. See, yes, you mentioned operation theater. So operation theater is one of the subsystem because within an operation theater, you have components which work together. Doctors, they are the mentioned components are working in an operation theater. Doctors, they are right, patients, or right, even you can say medicines. So they work together. So like operation theater, you know, we have emergency unit, right? That is one of the subsystems. Emergency unit, that EJU. EJU has components which work together. Even ICU, intensive care unit, that also has components. Doctors, nurses, patients, medicines, they work together. Outpatient department, OPD. So OPD also does, right? It has components, they work together. You can I mean point number of subsystems, right? Blood bank there, even every ward is a subsystem. Even a hospital has administration, you know, even though it is an organization for treating the patient, you know, administration must be there. The accountants are there, right? Administrative officers, so they also perform tasks. Everything is a subsystem. So when every subsystem contributes, right, every subsystem works perfectly, you know, hospital can reach its task or can reach its goal. So hospital has a goal, maybe producing healthy people. So that may be the goal of a hospital. So in order to achieve that particular goal, every subsystem contributes. Have you understood? So try understanding such things are very important. So I have taken some of the very commonly used examples, right? Like human body, school, and hospital, right? Okay. Right. Then, so now you have that ability to identify the components, subsystems, and system, right? Okay. Right. So let's take another important thing. This is, oh yes, this is in grade 10, I think, but we have to take it again. Elements of a system. Elements of a system. Anybody remembers what are the elements of a system?
Input, output, process.
Yes, good. A system has three elements: inputs, output, process, right? Maybe a system needs inputs. After taking or after receiving the inputs, a system has to perform the process. As a result of the process, output is produced. This is the main function of a system. It may be any system, right? Like your human body, or maybe hospital system, school system, or whatever you name, definitely you can find these three things in them, right? So they take the inputs, and these inputs can be processed. As a result of the process, output can be found, right? So I hope you remember some of the examples that you discussed in grade 10. I want to take one or two examples for grade 10. After that, after explaining that, because it is better to recalling something. So once we recall, then we can take some new examples like hospital or school for identifying these three, right? Inputs, process, output, right? In grade 10, we identified inputs, process, output in ATM, right? We took ATM as a system because ATM is a system because it has components. They can work together to perform tasks. Withdrawing the money is a task, or depositing the money is a task in ATM. So in order to perform such tasks, components within ATM must work together. We can understand, right? That ATM has inputs, process, output. We already discussed, so I hope that it is not important, not needed for, I mean, explaining again. So give me one or two inputs of an ATM.
NIC number,
ATM card,
Yes, ATM card.
NIC number,
In ATM, we don't need to input. We don't input NIC number, right? What is it?
password pin.
Yes, we have to input PIN, personal identification number. So we need to insert the ATM card as well as personal identification number, which is PIN. And also we have to input the amount which we want to withdraw, right? The amount which is requested, right? So that is also input. There may be many inputs, but I have taken three. Okay, the ATM card, your PIN, and also the amount that you want to withdraw. So when these things are given to the ATM, you know, within that ATM, processing takes place. ATM has to perform process. There may be number of processes taken place in ATM, but I take two processes. You know, when PIN is entered, that has to be verified whether that PIN is suitable to your card or not. Your system checks whether the PIN is the correct PIN. That is the kind of processing. And also when you type the amount for withdrawing, that amount has to be checked. Your system must check whether the requested amount is in your balance, right? So that is also a process. As a result of the process, you get output, right? So you gave inputs, process takes place inside of the system, and also as a result of that, you will get output. You can get many outputs, right? Like cash is an output, even that receipt is one of the outputs. The balance and everything displayed on the screen also output. So we have number of outputs. That is one of the system, right? And also we discussed about fingerprint reader in grade 10. That is also one of the systems, right? Fingerprint reader. So fingerprint reader can be used for multiple purposes. But think about the fingerprint readers which we use in organizations, schools, and other institutions for taking attendance. Fingerprint reader can be used for tracking down the criminals and other things. But here I'm talking about the fingerprint reader used in institutions for taking attendance. So that fingerprint reader is a system because it takes the input, it does the process, and finally it produces the output. So what about the inputs? Your fingerprint is input, right? Your fingerprints are inputs. So tell me, what is the process of fingerprint reader?
identify the print,
Yes, good. Better use the word verify, right? Verifying the fingerprint, right? So when you give your fingerprint, that has to be verified with the fingerprints which are in the system, right? So that is the verification process. As a result of the verification, the time, maybe arrival time or the time of the departure, can be entered, should be registered. That is output, right? fingerprints are taken by the system. Verification happens inside of the system. As a result of that, system registers the time of departure or sometimes time of arrival. So that has inputs, process and output. Clear? Right. So in grade 10, we have taken examples in the form of machineries like ATM, fingerprint reader. Even I hope I explained computer or something, smartphone or something. Everything is a device. So don't think that system is always restricted or limited to the machineries or devices. Look here, the human body is a system. It is not a machine, it is not a device. Even school, see, that is an organization with buildings and other resources. That is also system. Hospital, similar. So in grade 10, we were able to identify the inputs, process, output in systems which are in the form of devices. But here in grade 11, we will have to identify the same things, input, process and output in some different examples like schools, right, hospitals, maybe plants, some other example, right? So I will explain such things in the next class. Is there any doubt? Does anyone have any doubt? No, right? If you don't have any questions, we can finish the class today. All right, so it's enough. I didn't give any notes today, right? I described only few things. So these are the things which we discussed. We discussed about system. We discussed about examples. We took the relationship between components, subsystem and system. Finally, we took the elements of a system. Very little syllabus, right? So there is no, I didn't want to show the, this presentation today because things are very little. So that's why I didn't show anything. I kept, talking. But later, maybe at the end of the second class, I tried to send some of the PDF, theories based on this information system, right? So it's enough. We will meet in another class. Okay, thank you.